In this module, we have worked on the different phases that your heart makes you go through once it gets sick. At first, I called it the Bridget Jones state because it is one in which you publicly expose yourself to a series of situations that tend to unbalance your life, not only internally, but above all, in the relationship to the people with whom you interact. The idea here is that you can become more aware of what you learn in this module, and above all, what skills you have developed thanks to the work you have done up to this point. First of all, you learned that the first phase you go through once you suffer an emotional trauma, which affects your psychic heart, is the state of shock. That arises as a consequence of the surprise to which you expose yourself when your life suddenly undergoes a change that you did not expect to happen. That order to which you had become accustomed is erased in an instant, and with this, you have to live again in a state of chaos that you do not know how to deal with. Now you know that this state of shock is what, on an unconscious level, would lead you to constantly seek to re-establish that sentimental order which you lost due to the breakup of your relationship or disappointment in love that you are suffering, and that in turn will lead you to develop obsessive thoughts which will eventually cause you to not be able to live in your present. And you may not be able to build a relationship with someone who could really be meaningful to you. The other thing you have learned here is that the best strategy for you to overcome that state of shock as quickly as possible is to return as soon as you can to living in your present. All techniques that we are going to work on in the section corresponding to how to heal a heart. And once you have recovered your stability to live in your present, the key will always be that you can recover your future perspective. Thanks to everything, a state of shock, which used to last 2 weeks, can be reduced to a day of suffering for you to take into account. The second thing you learn in this module is that the next phase that arises in your psyche due to a wounded heart is the state of self-pity, which arises as a consequence of the vulnerability to which you voluntarily exposed yourself in order to be with another person. You gave your trust to another, and that other one ended up betraying you, or not taking into account your expectations, desires, and hopes. Then, without being aware of that, you generated a process in which you became weaker to fit in with the other person. But that same process of weakness is what subjects you today to not having your own developed emotional defense capacity. And that is why you look to another for care and protection, because you gave your own strength to another person who is no longer by your side. The other thing that you now know is that the process of self-pity leads you to transform into a kind of emotional child. And that's why you suffer so much when no one comes to take care of you. Because as I said, you have lost the ability to take care of yourself. And thanks to everything we worked on in that specific section, you already know that the key to resolving this phase consists precisely in being able to dissociate yourself from that abandoned child complex and thereby regain the strength that has always characterized you to take care of yourself. The other thing you learn in this module is that the third phase that arises from a hurting heart is the one in which you experience the desire to hurt others, which arises as a consequence of your desire that the person who at some point hurt you and who has revealed his life without you and who has apparently become happy again has some time of punishment as compensation for everything that you are suffering at the moment when you are experiencing all these emotions that have you in that state of pain that you cannot get rid of. The other thing you learned here is that the fundamental problem that arises because of this phase is that you cannot dissociate yourself from those toxic emotions and thoughts that, with the passage of the time, transform into obsessive thoughts which simply do not leave you alone and that at one point could lead you to hurt other people. And thanks to all this, you were able to discover that the solution for a situation of this type consists precisely in being able to dissociate your sense of personal value from the actions of your ex partner or of any person who makes you project onto yourself the fact that you cannot be happy. And the last phase that a hard heart enters, which you discovered here, is the one in which you develop the fear of being hurt again, which, as you discovered here, arose precisely when you meet people who, paradoxically, you could like and who could lead you to develop that desire to bond again on a sentimental level with another person. This is the moment when you always doubt if you are ready to start a new relationship. The problem that arose with this is that your desire for control is going to be exacerbated, and with this, you could end up alienating people who are genuinely interested in you. Something that you are not going to believe because of your lack of confidence. Therefore, you already know that in this phase, the key is always that you manage to reactivate your confidence in exposing yourself to risks that allow you to interact with people who, yes, could hurt you, but who could also be everything you are looking for in a relationship couple. Thanks to everything we explored here, you have managed to recognize the phases your heart goes through once it suffers an emotional trauma, what causes you to carry out a series of actions that apparently hurt you, and what treatments you should follow to limit its influence on your life. What will allow you to use these skills so that in the event that you suffer an emotional trauma again, such as a breakup or disappointment, you will regain control of your emotions and your life much more quickly. And above all, do not expose your personal image to the scrutiny of other people who want to harm you in case you cannot control your emotional balance, which is what you have achieved here with all this.